Security guards in school should have guns.
Technically speaking, their job is to protect us, and they can't do so without guns. That makes sense. So if they don't have guns, they can't protect us. It's quite simple.
Someone comes in to school with a gun, like God forbid it happens.
Yeah.
What are they going to protect us with?
My disagreeers, come up.
So I don't think that we should have guns, like the security should have guns in schools, because it promotes, like, I feel like it promotes more hostility. Like if you see like security officers walking around with guns, it like shows that it's like okay to have a gun.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for anybody to have a gun in a school where there's kids that are trying to learn. Like, I just don't think it's right. And like, okay, and I understand you want to like protect people. There are other ways of like securing the place, but I really don't think that anybody should have a gun in the school.
What do you mean? What you guys are saying, in an ideal world, like, yeah, we shouldn't have guns in schools, but like seeing the news, like there's so many school shootings, like the only way to like stop these shooters is to have guns.
Like if it was a student in the school, like with a gun, like how would, I don't get how like the security guards are going to use their guns on like the student with the gun.
When the student starts using the gun.
Well, yeah, but like it also.
Are you saying that the security guards should shoot to
So
kill?
if so,
Yeah.
Yes. If to like prevent more casualties, I believe that you should aim
yeah.
to kill.
Yeah, but the security guard would only like promote like more violence.
No.
Wait, I just don't understand like when you're saying like seeing a security guard carrying a gun, like that promotes more violence. Like police officers openly carry firearms when they're walking the streets. Like I'm sure kids could see that too, but it doesn't make them say, hey, like, he has a gun, let me get a gun.
Like knowing the police guard is there and have a gun makes you not want to do something.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think if anything, it makes people more secure and it's a deterrent to anyone who will potentially do anything.
The people in our school are too privileged.
I feel like this school definitely is very privileged because like I spend a lot of my time in Queens, a lot of my time in Brooklyn. I have a lot of friends, a lot of cousins in Brooklyn, and I see like what they value, like getting new shoes, getting new clothing. Like most of them have their licenses. Most of them don't have their licenses, not because they can't get it, or it's because their parents can't afford it. And here you see people they throw out shoes that are perfectly well, or give them away, or give them away when they can perfectly use them, or the cars that they have, and like the clothes that they have, and the technology they use. You know, it's a very big imbalance.
Yeah.
I feel like it depends on what you perceive privilege as, because I personally feel like living in America itself is a privilege, because like the schools here are amazing, and like our school in specific gets we get a lot of money because people pay higher taxes here, and we have a lot of stuff in this school like technology related, and like the help we get from teachers and people in general, and the support we get just puts us above a lot of other people.
So I feel like privilege is like defined by like what we worry about on a daily basis. So like we worry about like what? That's like grade maybe, right? Like what's like the latest trend, like the car that we're gonna buy, all that, right? But like what do other kids worry about? Like we can't think about that because we live in but like they probably like, they're like, what are we gonna eat or something, you know what I'm saying?
And I feel like is itself like a lot wealthier of a community than like surrounding areas. And then going back to like Brooklyn and Queens, in terms of like monetary stuff, like we expect more money, we expect nicer clothes, nicer shoes. And because a lot of us like have like the ability to afford those things, we don't think about it, and that's something that like we're all privileged to have.
and not only are we privileged here for because of like the money and everything, but this school is like, it's a good school. We have like access to a lot of things, and like I think other schools, they don't have as good teachers and everything, so I think we're also privileged in that way.
Some of the things that the school provides us, we don't even really make use of, like the bus system. Like everyone drives to school. I know some kids Uber to school. Like it's, but it's just like we have that there for us.
Yeah.
Okay, my disagreeer, come in.
Okay, so at first I was gonna walk in because I mistook in my brain like privilege for entitlement, and I think a lot of the students in the school act entitled or act as if they deserve stuff, which I really don't think people like deserve a lot of things. Like I don't think like when people say they deserve like a car or like deserve a new phone or deserve like anything and they haven't like gotten a job after school for it or they haven't like done anything special for it, that kind of annoys me. But in regards to privilege, I'm still kind of on the border. At points when you guys were talking, I felt like I should have walked in. But I think like inequalities within the education system, they ultimately like they have to exist. Like it sounds bad and it is bad, but there's net good to it. Like if you compared us to like schools in like New York City, then our privileges, like we obviously are more privileged.
I'm just curious, like what is your definition of privilege?
The prompt said too privileged. Like privilege just means that you have an advantage. And I don't think there's such thing as...
So what's the line between too privileged and privileged?
I think too privileged means that you corruptly or your parents corruptly got you into this position. Okay.
Your specific definition of privilege is not something I personally agree with. Yeah. But that's your definition. I respect that, yeah.
I think that, okay, so I thought about this a lot, and like you always want to get rid of certain inequalities in society so that you can measure merit as much as possible. You can measure how hard someone works as much as possible on their talent. But obviously, like that's not always how it works because some people start off with a better education and some people don't, right? You can't just like take away like someone's value after they've worked hard for it. Like, do you understand? So if there was some way in society for us to completely balance it out from the beginning so that everyone had an equal place to start, that'd be great. The only thing that it sounds great to have that in like elementary school and high schools. Like if we had our education system completely like unified and exactly the same for everyone, that'd be like perfect, right? We're all starting from the same place. But ultimately, if you think about it like in like a meritocracy or like in a capitalist system, people work hard for two reasons mainly. People work hard for themselves and they work hard for their families. Like my parents and my grandparents were like immigrants and they could barely speak any English and stuff like that. And the reason why they worked so hard was not only for themselves, it was actually primarily so that their kids could get a better education. And you need some sort of incentive or driving force in order to create a productive society. So yes, there's going to be inequalities in society, but I don't think that there's too much of an inequality that it's bad, especially in America or especially in the school, because we have one of the best meritocracies in the world. There's very, very little like corruption where you get money that comes from absolutely nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have like an advantage in society, it's either because you created it or your parents created it for you.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why you think we're not privileged.
I don't think we're not privileged. We're definitely privileged.
The prompt was that, yeah,
boy.
because I agree with everything you're saying. I agree with every single thing you're saying. The question was, are we privileged? The answer is
And
no.
then
The question was, are we too privileged?
So
Indicating that we should be less privileged. I think that we're definitely privileged. Like technically everyone except for the last person on the entire earth, like at the worst situation in the entire world, is more privileged than the person below them, like in a ranking, right? Too privileged just means that you have too much advantage and it's unfair and that advantage shouldn't exist. That's what I believe the word too indicates in the resolution.
I kind of feel though like the area that we live in kind of like causes us to be too privileged because we take everything for advantage.
I think that's entitlement though, that's not privilege.
I agree with affirmative action.
See, I agree with affirmative action because, like, when you have a disadvantage, like being discriminated against, meaning that you were on the worst side before and now you get a privilege so you can be equal, like the playing field can be equal. I think that is a good way of leveling things out based on race.
I agree with what you're saying, and like I also think like that just because like some groups get affirmative action, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're above or even equal to like the groups that don't. Okay, like let's be real. Like I don't want to get that deep into race, bro, but like Caucasians, right? Like sure, maybe in like colleges, right? People look more towards the minority groups, and you have a higher chance of getting in then. But not even that. It's like in the actual workforce, like the workplace, right? You can actually get a job. Like, let's be real. Like, it is a Caucasian-dominated society we have going on here, right?
Also, like those like minorities, let's say they were not given, like most of the minorities in that were not given a fair chance of going to college because of tuition or their parents' income or the fact that they had to drop out due to like being mistakenly pregnant or their parents couldn't afford it, stuff like that. Like having affirmative action for the people that did work hard and got in based on studying or based on sports or based on that gives them an extra boost to do what they have to do in college, no matter what their situation is.
Exactly. And our society got more racially diverse because of that.
All right, disagreeers, come.
So I think the first thing that's most important when we're like accepting, when I talk about affirmative action, I'm mostly talking about like race and colleges, like college acceptances. And I think that diversity of thought is the most important thing when you're talking about diversity in like a college, right? And the reason why we want diversity of ethnicity is not because we just like to see different colors of people. It's because people's cultural backgrounds or their ethnicities or where they come from influence their thoughts. That's the type of that's why we want actual diversity. There's no actual any other purpose. That's where like essays and writing and like whatever else can come in. Not like, do you know what I mean? You can't just assume someone's like thoughts or their expressions or what they believe in just based off their race. Like it might influence. That's why it's important. So you should look at the end result, not just race.
So you think it's only because of thought that race is like chosen as like a block factor, right? It's not the fact that, you know, that like sometimes like people might feel more comfortable around their own race, so they want not even an equal distribution, but like a somewhat like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like you don't think that that's what colleges want at all. It's just primarily based off of how they think, their thought process, diversity of thought. That's the only reason why.
No.
Of course not.
I think
right?
that's an ideal thing.
He's saying it should be like that.
Yeah.
If let's say it was an African American male, right, in a college. They're not admitting, like, let's say it's an African American male that went to an Ivy League or something, or a really top school, right? They're not admitting that person that has like flunking grades and some nonsense GPA, and that's not what they're doing. They're maybe has like a 3.8, you know, maybe he did a lot, maybe he really strived hard, maybe he really took serious his sports, his extracurriculars and maybe he got in over someone who is a Caucasian male and got like a 3.9 GPA and, you know, like also did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they're not doing affirmative action for somebody who was just sit back, did nothing and got in. You know, that was the point I was trying to make.
But it still gives them an advantage. Like
How?
What makes that other person better than the other person?
Just
So essentially, if the argument that you're making is that like minorities on average, or like minorities as a whole have been put at a disadvantage, so therefore their GPA might be a little bit lower because they had to go through more in their life or something like that, I think that could be solved a lot easier by just having like a little box and being like, what are the challenges you faced or something like that. Because everybody's situation might be different. Even someone who might be super rich might have like an abusive parent. Do you understand? There's no way to like completely measure someone's like challenges just with like 3 ticks on a multiple choice.
But do you think that colleges, let's say that were to happen, right? Do you think colleges are really going to take that into account?
Yes.
Yes, they should.
Yeah.
Well,
They should, but are they going to?
They're asking for that reason, then they would take that into account.
Yeah, they'd actually like that more because it's way more in depth and you can get a way better picture other than just literally like A, B, C, or D.
Using like one label to define everything isn't like the best solution.
The gender-neutral bathroom serves a purpose.
I think our gender neutral bathroom is a very important part of like the safety of our school, like making kids feel accepted or just like that they have a resource that they might need. And I understand that like it does get abused a bit because like both genders can go and there's other things that go on, but it just is like a safe space, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for someone who's in the LGBT community. It could be for anybody really, but it's just like a safe space to have, I think.
Also, like for people who haven't come out to the world yet, you know, or doesn't like want to like say, you know, they haven't like come in terms of themselves yet, they can go there without anybody really like looking at them crazy or like judging who they are.
Like, yeah, we have like male only and female still, which I think is important because I think a primary counter argument is that it's like unsafe for like girls.
Or it's like uncomfortable for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
If you
there's
have
other
the other-
options too.
Yeah.
Okay, my disagreeer, come up.
I understand why it's there and I respect what it stands for, but at the same time, I feel like instead of it being like an entire bathroom, it should be like in single stall.
That's
Like,
ideal.
sorry,
Yeah.
so when you walk in, it's just
It's just
it's like
a
a
single
toilet and a
bathroom,
sink.
yeah.
Just like that.
Right,
Oh.
yeah, because like I just feel like people would misuse it much less if that was the case.
Yeah. Our school is cliquey.
Everybody agreed?
No explanation needed. Like we are cliquey.
Like,
Like there's really nothing like to be said about that except that we are.
Well, like our school's always like, oh, like
No exclusion.
invite people like into your friend group. Like don't let anyone like sit by themselves. And like yeah, like we don't let that happen. But like at the same time, like if we're with like one group of people, and like there's like someone else that wants to come, like we'll like allow them to like join us. But like it might not be
It's
like
still always separate.
us
They
being
just
cliquey.
tend to stay with people that they like.
Interested
Yeah.
in.
It's worse when like that. Let's say you're a new student, like your grade, you just came in, new student, September. Like it's worse because let's say you're trying to make friends in something. Like yeah, they'll be nice to you in school and stuff, but you won't like ever see them outside of school.
Yeah.
They'll just be like your friend there. Stuff like that when you have like because they've made their friends already and they've been in the school for so long, so like when they are a new student they're just like okay, hi, and then they go about their business.
Yes, looking for someone to be your friend.
I kind of feel like that's like two-sided though, because it's also on the person that's new to the school to like contact people and not just kind of like, you know, flow from like person to person. Like if they want to be friends with someone, don't just like wait for them to accept you into their friend group. Like hang out with them more often, like talk with them more often, like try to hang out with them like after school.
No one in
But
the
you don't
school
wanna-
is really that exclusive.
Yeah,
either.
like
So
I feel
as
like
long
if
as
they
we-
see that someone
yeah, if
wants
you
to be
take
friends with them,
interest,
they'll
yeah.
But you don't want to overstep the boundary. Like
No,
like,
but, like, show that
thinking
you
of,
wanna be
from
friends.
a
Yeah,
new
just show that you want to be
Right,
friends.
yeah.
Yeah, I
People
know.
aren't gonna be
I think we're pretty
But like from a new
In this-
person's
I think so.
perspective, like they don't want to overstep the boundary. They're like tiptoeing
Yeah.
because they don't want
I
to
see
do
what you
anything
mean.
wrong. So that person doesn't go to like someone and be like, oh, like this
So the
person,
solvency
like why
is-
is she talking to me?
Are people in cliquey by race?
Yes.
Yes.
But there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that. That makes sense. Because I feel like, I mean, because like if you're of the same race, you tend to be of the same background, and like there's a lot of things common with the person with other person of the same race. It just happens.
And there are
Yeah.
special cases, like, okay, let's be obvious here. I'm a black American, I'm an African American, right? So, like, I don't really have the choice to be cliquey by race, because there's not many black people in this school. So I, like, hang out with
You're a free
anybody. I
spirit.
don't discriminate, oh, because you're not black, because I don't really have that choice, like, in real time.
I don't think there's a problem with it unless
No.
there's like any like elitism.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if any group like there's only a problem until like one group is better than another or thinks that
Yeah,
they're-
things are
that's it.
better.
Or like to the point where like it becomes racist. Like,
Yeah.
that's where we go. Yeah. But like I don't think like
Yeah, but that's only-
anyone's gonna be like, wait a minute, like you're a different race. I'm not-
Yeah, nobody does that. Nobody does
Yeah.
that. Nobody does that.
I don't mind sharing my grades.
Personally, I don't mind sharing my grades, but I do believe that it kind of adds to a sense of competitiveness.
I'm an open book generally, so I don't really mind sharing my grades, but I just don't like it when the other person doesn't share their grade back, if that makes sense. Because, like, I don't really care. I mean, like, even if I get a bad grade, I don't really mind sharing it. It's just that other people are secretive.
All right, my disagreeers come in.
Okay, so I don't like sharing my grades, and I feel like that's because of like the sheer competitiveness in our school. Like, I know I'm not like top tier student, I'm not like bottom tier student, like I'm kind of like in the middle. And like I feel like sometimes my grades aren't like up to par with like everyone else in the class, and like when I have other kids like sharing their grades with me, I'm like, that's great for you, but like it kind of like puts me down, like if I do like worse than them, like even if it's like by 1 point, it's like, come on, like why didn't I do better than them?
I think like for me it's just like very 50-50. Like I don't want to tell my grades to like people I know who are gonna judge me and be like, wow, like you're so stupid. Like if it's my friends, like even if they get 100, I don't really care. Like I'll show you my 50, you know.
I feel like it depends on your mindset, because like if you make an effort, like even if the school is competitive, if you make an effort not to care, then it wouldn't affect you. Like even if other people are really competitive, because like I think it's different for me because I'm new, but even in my old school, like back in India, like people were really competitive, but I didn't make an effort to care, and it sucked when people judged you based on what grade you got, but at the same time, if you don't let it affect you, it doesn't affect you.
I don't want people, like, I don't mind talking about it to my friends, but other people I know, I've been in a situation where I've told someone my grade, and it came back to me, and they were just like, oh, like, this person was talking some stuff about you, about your grades and stuff, and then that, like, just made me internalize myself, and I don't tell people about my business regarding school anymore that much, unless it's, like, my really close friends.
Yeah, like I think it's just so weird when like someone that you barely ever talk to just like comes up to you and asks you.
That's strange.
That is weird.
Yeah.
You should subscribe to this channel.
This channel allows for people to learn a lot about the different perspectives on different controversial topics.
Okay, we're done.
Subscribe.